Did Emily Ratajkowski just call out Harry Styles? What was in the group chat in Gwyneth Paltrow's ski trial? And what's going on with Prince Harry's secret lawsuit? I'm gonna answer all these questions in this video, so stick with me. First up, if you saw the video of Emily Ratajkowski making out with Harry Styles, you might be wondering if they're going to start dating. But that might not be the case, judging from her latest online Q&A session that she did with fans. Emily hinted that she doesn't see a long-term future with Harry and opened up about her post-divorce dating life, which apparently hasn't been going all that well. She said that she recently dated a man who couldn't be bothered finishing her book of essays, My Body, which was almost like her own personal memoir. She said, "I dated a guy for a minute, whose name will not be disclosed, who never made it through my own damn book. He got halfway and he was like, it's really good. He kept saying he was a slow reader, but I was also like, okay, are you just not that interested in me?" Emily said that a lot of the time when guys ask her for book recommendations, it's just an empty gesture because they don't actually read anything that she suggests. She also thinks that men are less sophisticated than women when it comes to thinking about relationships. She said, "Men think with their D, and they're just not that advanced." This is what causes her to really question the men that she dates as a single mom, because a lot of them will try to slip into that father role just so that they can sleep with her. Quote, "Like a woman would be like, I don't even know if I can go on a first date with this guy. He has 2 kids. Guys are just not there. So they'll be in love with you and they'll be like, oh crap, she has 2 kids. Guess I'm a stepdad." Some people thought that Emily was talking about Harry Styles here and insinuating that he's the kind of guy who would rush into this relationship without really thinking about what it means to date a single mom. But that might be a little bit of a reach because it seems like Emily was generalizing and isn't really talking about one guy in particular. She does make a good point though in saying that a lot of men don't actually consider the responsibilities of being a step-parent before they decide to start dating someone with kids. Later on in the session, someone asked her if it's okay to raise a baby without the father, and she had a very interesting response. It turns out Emily plans on having a second child even if she has to go it alone. She said, "I think that having a father is important, but I also just want to say I know quite a few women who've done it on their own and they've done incredible jobs and they are fantastic mothers and they have wonderful kids. And I personally have really liked parenting on my own. So I personally wouldn't be afraid of getting pregnant and giving birth as a single woman." Emily is seriously considering freezing her eggs or doing IVF in her late 30s. Although that's what she's decided to do, she still doesn't necessarily recommend the same choice for every single woman. She acknowledges that you don't get time off from your mom duties and it can be a lot of work. This particular Q&A session was really eye-opening because it goes to show you that Emily has a super independent mindset after her divorce, and she doesn't really seem to be too bothered about looking for a potential stepdad in her romantic partners. But that's not to say that she's stopped looking for love. Since the video went viral of her and Harry kissing, the reaction from fans has been overwhelmingly positive. It's still too early to tell, but it seems like most people like the idea of them together. Although there was speculation going around that the whole thing was a PR stunt. Of course, some people would jump to that conclusion because the moment was caught on camera, and it seemed like the two of them didn't care that they were being filmed. They were also said to be dancing together in the rain and sharing one single umbrella, so it was almost too perfect. But you do have to wonder, why on earth would they need any more publicity? As far as we know, they don't have any upcoming projects together, so that doesn't really make any sense. And more importantly, why would Harry want to be seen as such a bad kisser? If the whole thing was staged, you would think it would look a little better. If you can bring yourself to watch the video again, it seems like Emily is trying to bring the technique, but he's intent on doing his own thing. In fact, even some of his fans were straight up grossed out by the kiss. One person tweeted, "Seeing how Harry Styles kisses has given me such an irreversible ick with him. Like, I think this is it. I think I'm finally free." Another person wrote, "I'm going to pretend that video of Harry and Emrata doesn't exist, not because I care about their relationship, but because I refuse to believe Harry Styles kisses like that." To be completely fair, we can't be judging his kissing capabilities from a 10-second clip, no matter how close the camera was. And even though they chose to hook up in public, there's something about the video that feels like a massive invasion of privacy. You can only watch it once before you start to feel a little weird about it. The good news is that Harry has a lot more time to date at the moment because he now has 6 weeks off before he starts touring through Europe in May. So it's a very convenient time for him to get a new love interest if that's what he wants to do. And now, if you've been rooting for Gwyneth Paltrow in a ski crash trial, I have some good news. Last week, her lawyers claimed that Terry Sanderson had captured a video of the collision on his GoPro, but then he decided to delete it because it would prove that he was the one who ran into Gwyneth. The evidence that remained of this was a link that he sent to his daughter, which could not be opened. Gwyneth's attorney said his team had attempted to open the link, but it was purposely faulty. But just when all hope seemed to be lost, Michael Fletcher, a tech investigator who happened to be keeping up up with the trial, decided to try and open it. In the end, he was surprised at how easy it was. He solved the mystery in just 2 minutes and told Court TV that the only thing he had to do was create an account on the website and log in. Michael said, "They just didn't know how to open the link. Honestly, it's comical how easy it was. I can't believe they didn't do this already. It's almost a joke. It was just common sense." While the link didn't lead him to the GoPro video, what he discovered was still very interesting. It was a hidden group chat including Terry Sanderson and his only witness to the incident, Craig Ramon. In one of the messages, he says, "You cannot make this up. Gwyneth took out Terry last week. Last Saturday, her son broke his arm skiing at Park City. Gwyneth was staying at the Montage. She took her plane out of Million Airport. What makes me mad is that Gwyneth took out Terry and just took off." This directly contradicts his testimony that he was not immediately aware that it was Gwyneth Paltrow who was involved in the crash. So he obviously knew who she was right away and knew that she was a massive celebrity. Of course, these messages were sent to her attorneys, and now the judge has ruled that they are admissible in the trial. So this is a huge setback for Sanderson, now that his only eyewitness has been discredited. At the moment, we are in the second week of the trial, and it's really dragging on. Even Gwyneth's children are involved. Yesterday, the jury heard testimonies from 18-year-old Apple and 16-year-old Moses, who were aged 11 and 9 at the time of the incident. They were happy to testify in person, but because of scheduling conflicts, the lawyers read their depositions out loud. Moses said he briefly saw the collision while he was skiing with an instructor. He and his instructor noticed the crash and skied over to where it happened, which was when he realized that his mum was involved. He heard her yelling at the guy who allegedly crashed into her from behind. Sanderson's legal team tried to claim that Gwyneth was distracted by her son calling to her, but Moses denied that this was the case. As for Apple, she didn't witness the crash personally, but she did hear some of the commotion from further down the hill. When she met up with her mother a little bit later, she recalled her looking shocked. Quote, "I asked what had happened, and she said, 'This a-hole ran into me. He ran right into my back.'" So her statement pretty much backs up everything that her mom has said about the accident. Now, the trial is not over yet, but so far it looks like Gwyneth has well and truly proven her case. And now, did you know that Prince Harry is going to war against the Daily Mail? And he's not the only one. Both Harry and Elton John were in court on Monday as a part of an explosive new lawsuit that they brought against the publisher of the Daily Mail called Associated Newspapers. They claim that in an effort to dig up dirt on celebrities, the newspaper is responsible for abhorrent criminal activity and gross breaches of privacy. This allegedly includes the placing of listening devices in their homes and on their cars, bugging their phone calls, and paying police for information. But the celebrities involved in this lawsuit are not backing down without a fight. About half a dozen high-profile figures have now joined together to take legal action. This includes actress Sadie Frost and Elizabeth Hurley, filmmaker David Furnish, and Baroness Doreen Lawrence. The 4-day preliminary hearing in London will end with the judge deciding whether or not the case will go any further. David Sherborne, the lawyer for the group of celebrities, released a statement about the case. He said, "The claimants each claim that in different ways they were the victim of numerous unlawful acts carried out by the defendant or by those acting on the instructions of the newspapers, the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday." He said the alleged unlawful activity included illegally intercepting voicemail messages, listening into live landline calls, obtaining private information like itemized phone bills or medical records by deception or blagging. He said that these incidents ranged through a period from 1993 to 2011, and some of them even continuing until 2018. The High Court has now heard from Harry about how these incidents affected his mental health and his personal relationships. He claims that this massive invasion of privacy deprived him of important aspects of his teenage years. He knew the Daily Mail had unlawful ways of gathering information, and he actually believed they were using the people closest to him to do it. He then became suspicious of everyone around him, and so paranoid that he had to cut off certain friends. At one point, he viewed his peers as potential suspects who were willing to sell him out to the newspaper. So how did he find out about all of this? Well, apparently several private investigators that were working for the newspaper actually admitted to these illegal practices. It turns out the targets were Harry, his friends, and any potential romantic partner in his life. As a part of his testimony, he brought up his former girlfriend Chelsea Davy and the media's relentless coverage of them. The information that kept getting leaked about the couple created a terrifying situation. Harry said, "Their behavior and treatment of Chelsea was not normal. I was scared that Chelsea was going to run in the opposite direction or be chased and harassed to death." He said he went to extreme lengths to protect their privacy, but it was impossible. These continued invasions into his personal life eventually put a strain on all of his relationships. For their part, Associated Papers rebutted the allegations and said that Harry's claims appeared to be based on a confession by a private investigator, but they say that that investigator now denies that they paid him to do anything illegal. During his testimony, Harry also accused the royal family of withholding information from him for a long time about phone hacking. In a written statement, he said, "The institution made it clear that we did not need to know anything about phone hacking, and it was made clear to me that the royal family did not sit in the witness box because that could open up a can of worms." He went on to explain how he found out that other people within the royal family had brought phone hacking claims against the press. Quote, "It was not an exaggeration to say that the bubble burst in terms of what I knew in 2020. When I moved out of the United Kingdom, there was never any centralized discussion between us about who had brought claims, as each office in the institution is siloed. There is this misconception that we are all in constant communication with one another, but that is not true." So basically, he found out that the institution had intentionally left him in the dark, even though they knew his privacy was being seriously invaded. This is a pretty big accusation to level against the royal family, but by now, after everything else that Harry has accused them of, it's not really that surprising. His hatred of the British tabloids is also no secret. We know that he blames the press for the death of his mother, Princess Diana. His wife, Meghan Markle, has also had her own battles with the press. In 2018, she sued Associated Newspapers Limited over 5 articles that they published, which included parts of the letter that she sent to her father, Thomas Markle. It took 3 whole years, but she eventually won her case when Judge Mark Warby ruled in her favor. He decided that Meghan had a reasonable expectation that the contents of the letter would remain private, and that the articles had interfered with that reasonable expectation. In a statement of her own, Meghan called for a reshaping of the tabloid newspaper industry and said that she had been patient in the face of deception, intimidation, and calculated attacks. So it's no wonder that Harry is also choosing to stand up to the British press with his latest legal battle against Associated Newspapers. How's it going, Io? In this video, we're going to get into the huge Alec Baldwin news, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's defamation lawsuit, and the fact that Twitter has screwed up in the worst way possible. First up, Alec Baldwin's legal battle is getting unbelievably messy. His lawyers filed a motion on Tuesday seeking to disqualify the special prosecutor who was a part of the team that brought the involuntary manslaughter charges against him. The motion argues that Andrea Reeves' role as a special prosecutor violates the New Mexico Constitution because she is also an elected member of the state's House of Representatives. Alec's attorney Luke Nyker said that she is not constitutionally permitted to serve both as a legislator and as a special prosecutor, and doing so gives her the powers of different branches, legislating and prosecuting, which is not allowed according to the New Mexico Constitution. Andrea Reeves was a district attorney for the 9th Judicial District in New Mexico before she resigned in March of 2022. She was then named special prosecutor for the Rust investigation in August, just 2 months after securing the Republican nomination for the state house. She was then elected to the legislature in November. Alec's lawyer argued that her double role could lead to unethical behavior, like future prosecutors seeking to curry favor with legislators by offering them positions on high-profile cases. He also brought up the fact that there was not any kind of law that would prevent a similar situation in Mexico, because no one has attempted such an unconstitutional action in the state. In response, the prosecutors released a statement saying that Alec Baldwin and his lawyers could use whatever tactics they want to distract from the fact that Helena Hutchins died because of gross negligence and a reckless disregard for safety on the Rust film set. They went on to say, however, the district attorney and the special prosecutor will remain focused on the evidence and on trying this case so that justice is served. Apart from the potential issue with Andrea Reeves, the Rust case has also hit another major bump in the road. Last week, Alec was hit with a firearm allegation that was not on the books at the time of the October 2021 incident. The actor is now facing a charge of involuntary manslaughter, as well as a firearm enhancement in connection with the death of the cinematographer. With the enhancement in place, each defendant faces up to 6.5 years in prison. If it were dropped, they would only face 18 months. But here's where this gets complicated. That particular enhancement did not actually become law until May of 2022, a full 7 months after Helena was killed. That raises a question about whether or not a judge would allow prosecutors to pursue that additional 5-year term. At the moment, that's something that they are scrambling to figure out. The first judicial district attorney and the appointed special prosecutor are now reviewing the issue. And the same goes for prop armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, who had the exact same charges and enhancement filed against her. Her attorney Jason Bowles said that the enhancement would be in violation of her constitutional rights because it is barred by the Constitution and by ex post facto law. So why did they only find this out now? Well, a criminal attorney in New Mexico by the name of Caitlin Smith was the one who actually discovered the issue. She found this out while she was reviewing the case on her Serious Trouble podcast. She explained that the prosecutors probably probably shouldn't have charged the enhancement and said that the defense could file a pre-trial motion to have the enhancement thrown out. Last week, the case took another sharp turn when prosecutors made the shocking claim that Alec missed firearm training before filming Rust. Court documents claim that he failed to attend a session on handling these weapons before filming had officially started. After that, a private hour-long session was scheduled with the actor, but it ended up only being 30 minutes in length because he was distracted and talking on his cell phone to his family during the training. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed stated in her deposition that Alec had limited training in firearms and how to check his own firearm as to whether it was unloaded or loaded. She wrote, "While he did attend a 30-minute training session on set, he appeared distracted." Prosecutors also argued that because Alec was one of the producers on the film and not just an actor, he actually allowed the hiring of Hannah, who turned out to be inexperienced and unqualified to be working with so many firearms. She failed to demand the minimum safety standards, protocols, and requirements on set. And here's the big one. Even though Alec insisted that he did not pull the trigger on the weapon, the FBI later tested the firearm and concluded that it would not have fired if someone hadn't pulled the trigger. This obviously calls everything he said into question, like his interview with ABC News in 2021, where he adamantly denied pulling the trigger. He also said, "I feel that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know that it's not me." As of now, we know that both defendants are due to make their initial appearances in court on February the 24th, and the hearing will be conducted over Google Meet. Moving on, did you know that Meghan Markle is getting sued for defamation? It's now come out that the Sussexes will have to give separate testimony under oath as a part of a lawsuit brought against Meghan by Samantha Markle, her half-sister. She's seeking damages in excess of $75,000. The Duchess is being sued for defamation and injurious falsehood after the couple's 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey, where Samantha claims that Meghan made demonstrably false and malicious statements against her to a worldwide audience, including the roughly 50 million people in 17 countries who watched the interview. The 58-year-old claims that the interview subjected her to humiliation, shame, and hatred on a worldwide scale, and that Meghan spread lies worldwide about her father, Thomas Markle. She alleges that the Duchess orchestrated a premeditated campaign to defame and destroy her sister and her father's reputation. Under the order, Meghan and Harry will be forced to answer questions regarding various public statements that they have made, including as to whether they think the members of the royal family are racist. The 41-year-old actress had attempted to stop the depositions, but her request to the judge was dismissed. The couple filed a motion to block them in the case, but the judge dismissed the motion on Tuesday, saying that Meghan does not satisfy the high standard required to stop the formal testimony. So what kind of malicious lies brought about this lawsuit? Well, during the Oprah interview, Meghan made various claims about their childhood. She said that she grew up as an only child, and that she and her older sister were virtually strangers, and they had no relationship whatsoever. Now, obviously, these claims did not paint Samantha in the best light because she's 17 years older than Meghan, so most people would have thought that she was the one who abandoned her younger sister. For her part, Samantha claims that the two of them had frequent and regular contact with each other throughout Meghan's childhood. In fact, she claims that Meghan constructed a false rags to royalty narrative that was damaging to both herself and Thomas. She also denies the claim that she changed her last name to Markle after the news first broke out in 2018 that Meghan and Prince Harry were dating. Her attorney released a statement saying, "As to whether we will need Harry's deposition, that decision is yet to be made. Obviously, if the Duchess would want to call him, we would need to take his deposition. Otherwise, we will probably still want to inquire as to some issues." According to The Independent, there has also been a mediator appointed to the case, with the hope of resolving the lawsuit without the need to go to trial. The planned depositions come right after Meghan and Harry's Netflix series and the publication of Harry's memoir Spare. Both of these projects came with a fair amount of backlash, but many people thought that Meghan used the documentary as a way to hit back at her sister. In the series, she claimed that she hadn't seen Samantha for over a decade and had little to no relationship with her, but apparently she was suddenly everywhere when her relationship with Harry went public. She said, "I don't know your middle name, I don't know your birthday. You're telling these people you raised me and you coined me Princess Pushy. I hadn't had a fallout with her. We didn't have a closeness to be able to have that. and I wanted a sister. She was referring to the book that Samantha released in 2021 called The Diary of Princess Pushy's Sister Part 1, which is 330 pages long. She's also complained on Twitter about not being invited to their wedding. She wrote, "Out of respect and humanitarianism, the Markles should be invited if 2,000 complete strangers are. Our uncle, brother, me, best friend of 30 years, nephews. The issue is not a matter of closeness. Family is family." At the time, her mother Doria Ragland was the only family member of Meghan's to attend the ceremony, but there is a good reason for that. The Duchess has said that her father's side of her family is the one who keeps speaking out against her, not her mother's side. But in the third episode of the documentary series, the audience is introduced to someone called Ashley Hale, who is Meghan's niece and the daughter of Samantha. This is where we learn that she's become very close with her niece over the years, and said that she was heartbroken when she was told by the palace that she couldn't come to her 2018 wedding, because it would look bad if Ashley was invited but Samantha wasn't. Although since that revelation has been made public, several anonymous sources at the palace have come out and denied those claims. One of them spoke to the Sunday Times and said, "That just didn't happen. We never gave any advice, steer, or guidance on who of her family friends should or shouldn't come." They further explained that Meghan wanted to shield Ashley from the onslaught of media attention and said that it was her who decided not to invite her niece. Quote, "It was not a question she put to us. We would never tell her not to invite her own niece, and we would never get involved in any management of personal relationships." Another royal insider said, "Meghan didn't want the media to know about Ashley. No one on earth would have said don't invite family to the wedding. That's a complete and utter lie." But whatever the case, it's no secret that her relationship with some members of her family have always been difficult, and with this defamation case going on, it's probably going to get even worse. And now, did Twitter just cause their own demise? Last night, many of the platform's core features stopped working, which included tweeting, retweeting, following, and direct messages. When attempting any of these actions, users were presented with an error message informing them that they had reached their daily limit. The platform stayed online but in a read-only mode, so people got very confused about why Elon Musk is now placing limits to the number of direct messages and tweets that someone can send per day. Apparently, the daily tweet limit is now set at 2,400 characters, but this number is then broken into smaller limits for semi-hourly intervals. According to the help page, people hitting limits will be allowed to try again after a few hours, although no one knows exactly when that will be. Apparently, there is also now a maximum of 500 direct messages per day and a follow limit of 400 accounts per day. Twitter has also started capping the total number of accounts an individual user can follow, and they set this number at 5,000. But quite a few cracks started appearing before the mass outage. One of them was a bug which allowed users to post tweets with thousands of characters at a time. In response to all the chaos, Musk sent an email to Twitter staff implying that he was just experimenting with a new feature, which would hopefully maximize the stability of the system. But the outrage was widely predicted by IT professionals after Musk took over the site. It's well known that the acquisition left him in huge amounts of debt, which only got worse when advertisers fled the platform. He then fired a bunch of staff in order to cut costs, taking it down from 7,000 employees to just over 1,000. At the moment, it's been reported that there are only 500 engineers left on staff. The controversy surrounding his leadership reached an all-time high in mid-December when Musk suspended a group of tech journalists from the platform, with a sketchy explanation at best. He created a new policy on a whim and claimed that these accounts were now violating the company's rules about revealing people's location. He also claimed that these journalists had doxed him, but many people believe that his decision had a whole lot more to do with what they wrote about him, because it just wasn't very flattering. Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about the fatal stampede at the Glorilla concert, Elon Musk's Twitter paranoia, and Prince Harry's substance use exposed. First up, have you heard what happened at the Glorilla concert? On Sunday at her show in Rochester, New York, there was a disastrous crowd rush that left 2 people dead and 8 people injured. According to reports, audience members apparently thought they heard a firearm go off after the concert ended at around 11 p.m. Everyone then ran towards the exits at the same time, which caused a massive crowd surge. When police entered the venue, they found 3 women critically injured, including 33-year-old Rondisha Belton, who then died at the hospital. A second woman who was aged 35 also died from her injuries, while another one remains in critical condition. The other 7 people are not believed to have life-threatening injuries. The strange thing is that law enforcement found no evidence of firearms or stabbings at the venue, so they're now investigating multiple causes for the stampede. In a statement, the police police said, "We are hearing many reports of potential causes. Preliminary reports from people at the scene indicate that these injuries were caused from being trampled. They suggest that the chaos could have been started by either the crowd size, firearms, or something like pepper spray." The mayor of Rochester, Malik D. Evans, said that the incident was totally unacceptable and a tragedy of epic proportions. Quote, "When you go to a concert, you do not expect to be trampled. Your loved ones expect you to be able to come home. We are going to hold people accountable for what happened last night, period. I intend to get to the bottom of this." One fan who was stuck in the crowd surge spoke to a local news station about the experience. She said, "Me and the girl next to me were climbing on each other trying to get each other up. I was watching the life flash before my eyes and I still didn't know what was going on." She said she remembered telling herself, "You gotta get up, you gotta go home. If you stay here, they're going to keep running you over." After the news of the tragedy hit the headlines, Glorilla took to Twitter claiming that she was not aware of the incident until after she left the venue. She wrote, "I am devastated and heartbroken over the tragic deaths that happened after Sunday's show. My fans mean the world to me, praying for their families and for a speedy recovery of everyone affected." In response, fans tweeted messages of support to the artist and the victims of the tragedy. Naturally, there were also a lot of people comparing this incident to the Astroworld concert in 2021, which saw 10 people lose their lives and dozens injured in a disastrous crowd surge. All of this was happening while Travis Scott continued his performance. It was said that the concert continued for roughly 40 minutes after the first person was crushed. One user wrote, "Travis got cancelled for this. I speak for everyone when we say we should hold Glorilla responsible for this as well." In response, another user tweeted, "The difference between Glorilla and Travis is that Travis watched and refused to stop. Glorilla, on the other hand, immediately ended the show once panic started to happen, so Glorilla didn't do anything." Other fans laid the blame on the venue itself and the size of the crowd. Someone wrote, "The fact that it's no one's fault besides the establishments, because they knew they were over capacity. Send love and condolences to the friends and family of those who are invited and has passed over." Sadly, this is far from the first time a tragedy like this has happened. Last year, South Korea saw one of the deadliest crowd crushes in recent history. On the evening of Saturday, the 29th of October, as many as 100,000 people poured into the narrow, sloping streets of Itaewon for a massive Halloween celebration. But just after 10 p.m, chaos erupted and witnesses reported seeing crowds surging in different directions. People lost their footing on the slope, which caused a domino effect. They were piled on top of each other and trapped. Some even tried to scale the sides of buildings to escape. In the end, more than 150 people died in the crush, and 196 were injured. These incidents occur when too many people push into a confined area, either on the way in or trying to get out. And no matter how calmly a crowd behaves, it can only fit through a narrow exit at a certain rate. So with concerts and festivals, we clearly need better crowd control. There's no question about it. The only thing people cannot agree on is whether or not we should blame the artist who's performing. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And now, why is Elon Musk getting more and more paranoid? It's been reported that he is routinely followed around the company's headquarters by two bulky bodyguards, even when he goes to the restroom. The two bearded guards went viral back in January after they came with him to his fraud trial, and now they appear to have accompanied him to Twitter as well. One Twitter engineer who only identified himself as Sam told BBC News, "Wherever he goes in the office, there are at least two bodyguards, very bulky, tall Hollywood movie bodyguards, even when he goes to the restroom." He said the constant use of bodyguards suggested that Musk does not trust his remaining staff at Twitter. Now, there could be a number of reasons for this, but it does seem like paranoia, possibly because he has sacked a huge number of Twitter staff recently. What's more is that insiders who are still at the company have described a chaotic working environment where almost everyone in charge of online safety has been laid off. Current and former employees of the company have said that the features intended to protect users from trolling are now proving to be way too difficult to maintain. Several workers anonymously spoke to BBC about this, and one of them was the former head of content design. She says that everyone on her team had been sacked, so she ended up resigning herself. This is extremely troubling considering that they were in charge of creating Twitter's safety measures, which reduced trolling by 60%. An engineer currently working at the company claimed that nobody's taking care of this type of work now. He described Twitter as a building that seems fine from the outside, but inside it's on fire. And there's plenty of reason to believe that he's telling the truth. There's now evidence that hate is thriving under Musk's leadership. With trolls emboldened, the online attacks are intensifying. There's been a spike in accounts following misogynistic profiles. A recent study conducted by Montclair State University revealed a spike in hate speech since the takeover. The study tracked how often homophobic, anti-Semitic, and racial hate-driven terms were used. Researchers found that about 398 hate tweets an hour were made in the 12 hours after the acquisition was finalized, a number that nearly quadrupled from the 84 tweets in the hour in the week leading up to it. Since taking charge, the tech billionaire set up what what he calls a content moderation council that was composed of people with widely diverse viewpoints who were supposed to prevent the spread of misinformation and harmful content. But that very council that he put together has already fallen through. Without warning, he abruptly dissolved the team just moments before they were scheduled to meet with company representatives. So in reality, he might not have actually had a plan to stop the spread of hate speech on the platform. Instead, Musk seems to be preoccupied with something else. According to multiple reports, he's more worried about how many people are seeing his tweets. Last month, he made his account private for a day to test whether that might boost the size of his audience. But that didn't give him the answers he wanted. He then gathered a group of engineers and advisors into a room to figure it out. According to multiple sources, he asked something along the lines of, "Why are my engagement numbers tanking? This is ridiculous. I have more than 100 million followers, and I'm only getting tens of thousands of impressions." It was suggested that public interest in him is declining. Employees initially thought that his reach had been restricted somehow, but they found no evidence of that. So the answer is very simple: he's just not that popular anymore. But Musk did not take this news well, and he reportedly fired the engineer who presented him with that information. Ever since his takeover, it's been made pretty clear that he is something of a tyrant at Twitter, but all that intensity might have been for nothing, since Twitter usage in the US has declined almost 9% since the takeover. And with all things considered, that's really no surprise. And lastly, we now have a list of all the illegal substances Prince Harry has used and recommended. On Saturday, Harry sat down for a trauma therapy session with Dr. Gabor Mate, and the whole conversation was live streamed. Not everyone thinks that was a good idea because the revelations in this conversation will likely come back to bite him. The two men covered a range of topics, from Harry's use of psychedelics to the war in Afghanistan and the multi-generational emotional issues in his family. In fact, Harry really drove home that last one. We already suspected that the royals are not exactly huggers, but when Mate suggested he had a childhood that was deprived of touch, he agreed. Apparently, he was traumatized by his father's lack of physical affection, which never really went beyond a touch on the shoulder or the knee. This is something that Harry is very concerned about passing on to his own children, Archie and Lilibet. He said, "It leaves me in the position of a father having two children trying to smother them with love. I feel a huge responsibility not to pass on any trauma or negative experiences that I've had as a kid or as a man growing up. There are times when I catch myself when I should be smothering them with that love, but I might not be." So even though he doesn't entirely blame Charles for his lack of physical affection, Harry said he's now focused on breaking the cycle in his own family. He also condemns the kind of life they lead and describes them all as being in an unhealthy gilded cage. So again, he's doubling down on the idea that William and Kate are all very cold with each other, even behind closed doors. According to Harry, it was Meghan that saved him from this. He said, "I was stuck in this world and she was from a different world and helped draw me out of that. But none of the elements of my life now would have been possible without me seeing it for myself." Now we get into the most controversial part of the session. Eventually, the conversation turned to substances that he may have used to try and mask his trauma. Harry admitted that the infamous powdery substance didn't actually do anything for him, while the leafy green stuff really did help. But out of everything that he's tried, it's psychedelics that really blew his mind. He said, "I started doing it recreationally and then started to realize how good it was for me." In his book, we learned that he once took mushrooms at a party at Courtney Cox's house, and the results were interesting, but now he admits to doing a little bit more than that. He revealed to Dr. Mate that he once tried which is a hallucinogenic drink that's made by brewing the leaves of plants from the Amazon rainforest into a tea. He described the experience as cleaning a dirty windscreen and removing the filters that he saw life through. Quote, "It removed it all for me, and it brought me a sense of relaxation, release, comfort, a lightness that I imagined to hold on to for a long period of time." This is obviously something that the doctor would have agreed with, because in 2011, Mate was sternly warned by Health Canada against using the plant in treatments. Today, he's still a huge advocate of the substance when it comes to mental health care, but that's part of what makes him so controversial. Although Harry has a very positive outlook on these substances, he made it clear that he's very skeptical about Big Pharma. He asked Mate's opinion on prescriptions in a sort of way that made it seem like he's not a believer himself. Later, he brought up the highly contested theory that doctors are paid more when they prescribe medication. Overall, it was this part of the conversation that was really criticized. Journalist and Dr. Max Pemberton called his comments hugely irresponsible. He said, "Harry plainly has no understanding of the serious damage these substances can wreak on users, damage that I see on mental health hospital wards with upsetting frequency." In one of the stranger moments of the livestream, Harry looked visibly uncomfortable when Mate began to diagnose him with various mental health conditions. During the session, he got diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and ADD, or attention deficit disorder. Even though he was clearly surprised, Harry sort of goes along with it and says, "Okay, should I just accept that or should I look into it?" The doctor insists that he can do whatever he wants with that information. Coronation, but it was obviously a bit of an awkward moment and very difficult to watch. Harry also confessed that he actually reads the Amazon reviews of his book, which means that he's clearly keeping tabs on what everyone's been saying about him. Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about the fact that Hailey Bieber has now lost 1 million followers, the reason Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have been evicted from their house in the UK, and the serious problem with Ozempic that no one is talking about. First up, another day, another negative slave. It looks like Hailey Bieber has come under fire yet again. She was savagely trolled by Selena Gomez fans after she posted several photos with Justin Bieber, all to celebrate his 29th birthday. She captioned the post writing, "29 never looks so good. Happy birthday to you, best friend. Words couldn't possibly sum up all that you embody. So here's to more joy, more travel, yummy food, adventures, more peace, fun, and most of all, more love." While some of her followers sent birthday wishes, heaps of fans flocked to her comment section to savagely drag her. They wrote things like, "You are definitely the rebound. I guess side chicks do win sometimes. And I forgot to unfollow you." Another person wrote, "She posts this for him, yet he didn't even speak out publicly to defend her. Bold move to turn the comments on." Other people simply wrote hashtag Team Selena to show everyone who they support. A lot of the comments were mocking Hailey for the fact that she lost around 800,000 followers on Instagram and more than 300,000 on TikTok since the drama started. But she isn't the only one that fans have been turning against. Kylie Jenner has lost around 1 million followers on Instagram as well, but the opposite happened to Selena. As of March the 1st, she's gained nearly 10 million followers since February the 22nd, when the feud first started. Since coming back to Instagram, she's reclaimed the throne of the most followed woman on the platform. Now, this all started when she made a post saying that she accidentally laminated her eyebrows too much. In what looked like a response, Kylie posted a close-up photo of her and Hailey's eyebrows with the caption, "This was an accident." Fans immediately took this as an attempt to mock Selena and called them out for bullying her, but it wasn't long before Selena started hitting back. A video resurfaced of Hailey in 2017 when she was a host on Drop the Mic. When Taylor Swift's name was mentioned, the camera cuts to her and she points a finger at her mouth and pretends to gag. Selena actually left a comment under that video saying, "So sorry, my best friend is and continues to be one of the best in the game." So she was obviously sick of Hailey's behavior. She then commented on a second TikTok where one of her fans said, "Does anyone just feel like really bad for Selena Gomez? Like, can you imagine going through a breakup so publicly with a guy that you were in love with for like 7 years and then 2 months later he just marries someone?" In response, the singer commented under the video saying, "That made me cry, thank you." And on the third TikTok, a fan said that she was officially supporting Selena after all the mean girl bullying that she's now getting from Kylie and Hailey. The post called the two women mean girls and nepo babies, and Selena just commented, "I love you" under the video. Fans have now been picking sides between the women, and it's pretty clear who came out on the losing end of the feud. It wasn't long before people were posting receipts that proved that Hailey was a hardcore Justin Bieber fan for years before they ever got together. In fact, she would often tweet about his relationship with Selena and how much she shipped them as a couple. In a deleted tweet from 2011, she wrote, "I don't care what anyone says, but Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez together is the definition of a teenage dream." Now that does seem like something she would be mortified about, but to be fair, she was only around 14 or 15 years old when she posted that. But soon after that, fans found another embarrassing video of Hailey. The video shows a young Hailey in the crowd trying to get close to Justin, accompanied by a known celebrity finder called Ronnie Sus. This was obviously long before she was a part of his inner circle. We know that she was introduced to him in 2009 by her father Stephen Baldwin, but judging from that video, Justin still treated her like just another fan. One user commented, "She was the groupie with the most financial resources to keep stalking, and eventually came out on top. Money does buy love indeed." But obviously there's two sides to every story, and it's possible that Justin knew about her fan behavior and just thought it was cute. Next up, it looks like the royal rift between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and his family may have just gotten a little bit deeper. So much so that they have now been evicted from their UK residence. A spokesperson for the couple said, "We can confirm the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have been requested to vacate their residence at Frogmore Cottage." The Sun first reported the news and said that the reason is so that Andrew, the disgraced prince, can move in. Talk about downgrade. The news comes as a shock to some people considering that Harry and Meghan moved into Frogmore Cottage in 2019, and it was officially considered their home in the UK. But the move was not without controversy. The British tabloids were particularly vicious towards the couple when they decided to go through with some expensive renovations, all to make the cottage a little more livable. One of the main things they were accused of was using exorbitant amounts of taxpayer funds for this project, $3.2 million to be exact. Extensive renovations were then made to the Georgian-era home, but by early 2020, Harry and Meghan announced their plans to just relocate to North America. But this is what what made them come under intense scrutiny, more than ever before. It seemed like they were happy to accept millions of dollars in taxpayer funds to do up their mansion, while they distanced themselves from the royal family and their actual duties. In response to the public pressure, they eventually paid back all the money, if only to try and get the media off their back. They wanted to make it impossible for the tabloids to criticize them under the guise of public interest. This was part of the reason Harry and Meghan wanted financial freedom so badly. They were just sick of being called out, but in all fairness, they ended up doing exactly what they said they would because they haven't benefited from the UK tax funds since 2020. Fast forward to December and the controversy was back in the headlines. In the couple's Netflix documentary, Meghan openly complained about the size of Frogmore Cottage and tried to make it seem unlivable, despite the fact that many people saw it as a literal palace. After all, the house had 10 bedrooms. Meghan said, "Kensington Palace sounds very regal. Of course it does. It says palace in the name, but Nottingham Cottage was so small." She then complained about how it had very low ceilings and insisted that Harry would often bump his head because of them. Then Harry said, "As far as people were concerned, we were living in a palace, and we were in a cottage on the palace grounds." Frogmore had been given to them by Queen Elizabeth as a wedding present, so it reflected quite poorly on them to be still talking about its inadequacies more than 2 years after they moved out. They've returned a few times during visits to the UK, but it's only been for special events like the Queen's Platinum Jubilee last June. Meghan and Harry now live in a $15 million mansion in Montecito, California, which is where they moved in secret just a few months after stepping down as working royals. In August, Meghan was interviewed for The Cut magazine, where she opened up about the 9-bedroom home. She said, "We did everything we could to get this house because you walk in and you go joy and exhale and calm. It's healing. You feel free." Despite some pipes that need fixing, she called the mansion their safe space. It was described as a coastal peace den that reminds you of a Napa vineyard. But of course, there was something a little pretentious about the interview, because Meghan then explained that on the lawn there are 2 massive palm trees that represent her and her husband, always connected and supportive of each other. The article also describes 2 plush chairs in their living room that are placed side by side to resemble thrones. So it's clear that they still wanted something about their home to look regal. But beyond its gobsmacking price, the decision to live next to US television royalty like Oprah Winfrey and Ellen DeGeneres was certainly a good move. With everything that we've heard about them recently, it's pretty obvious that they've set their sights on Hollywood. So who knows how many more projects they'll have coming out. And now, what on earth is Ozempic and why is it trending? The medication used to treat diabetes has gained an insane amount of attention recently. The FDA first approved the injectable in 2017 with a higher dose of the active ingredient in Ozempic called semaglutide under the brand name Wegovy. Since then, news of the medication has popped up across the internet, and now it's become popular with exactly the kind of people it wasn't intended for: celebrities looking to dramatically lose weight. In October, Elon Musk caused a stir when he admitted on Twitter that he lost weight from taking Wegovy. One of his followers tweeted a photo of him to compliment his weight loss and asked what his secret was. In response, he said, "Fasting and Wegovy." Chelsea Handler revealed that she took Ozempic without knowing what it was called or that it was meant for people with type 2 diabetes. She said, "I don't even know I was on it." She claimed that her anti-aging doctor just hands it out to anybody, and she said that she stopped taking it after a friend informed her that Ozempic is the brand name for the semaglutide injections she knew she was taking. Chelsea claimed that she also stopped using it because she didn't need it and was concerned about the number of people she knew irresponsibly used it, and said it's going to backfire. Something bad is going to happen. In September, Andy Cohen tweeted, "Everyone is suddenly showing up 25 pounds lighter. What happens when they stop taking Ozempic?" Well, Remy Bader found that out the hard way. The TikTok creator and model said that she started taking Ozempic because she had pre-diabetes and insulin resistance, even though she had mixed feelings about the prescription. But when she stopped taking it in 2020, she said she gained double the weight back. Quote, "I saw a doctor and they were like, it's 100% because you went on Ozempic. It was making me think I wasn't hungry for so long. I lost some weight. I didn't want to be obsessed with being on it long term. I was like, I bet the second I got off it, I'm gonna be starving again. I did, and my binging got so much worse. So then I kind of blamed Ozempic." But Remy does raise an interesting question about using it long term. According to experts, the longest study done on these injections was conducted over less than 2 years. So a lot of questions still have not been answered. As with any kind of medication, there are also potential side effects like vomiting, constipation, and stomach pain. But many users have also complained about something they call Ozempic face, which is that gaunt, hollowed out look you get in your face once you've lost a significant amount of weight. This is mostly a loss of facial fat that can leave the face sagging and looking a lot older. But some people on the medication feel that this facial change is extremely drastic. It's not just a wrinkle in one area or heaviness around the eyes. Ozempic face often means changes to your temples, jawline, mouth, and under eyes. This usually happens because patients have dropped way too much weight and far far too quickly. The injection isn't officially approved for obesity, but doctors are permitted to describe it off-label for weight management. The biggest issue though is that people who want to use it just to lose a couple of pounds wouldn't normally be candidates for that treatment, but they want to get their hands on it anyway, and that's what's led to a massive shortage. Now the FDA has officially listed Ozempic and Wegovy as medications in short supply. A representative for the manufacturer has released a statement saying that they are experiencing intermittent supply disruptions due to incredible demand. As interest in Ozempic has increased, some doctors believe that more people have sought ways to take it for weight loss, either by finding a physician who will prescribe it to them off-label or by seeking it out online. It's currently being supplied by both doctors and nutritionists. It's also said that certain medical spas carry it as well, but of course, if Hollywood loves it, it's not going to be cheap. One Ozempic pen costs somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500 a month if you're getting it from a pharmacist. But even if the supply finally catches up with the demand, it's not something that you should necessarily jump on just because of its popularity. Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about Katy Perry's journey to sobriety, the possibility that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will get booed in the UK, and Blac Chyna's dramatic transformation. First up, Katy Perry has just confessed that she's been sober for 5 weeks. She revealed that she had a pact with her fiancé Orlando Bloom to try and quit for 3 months. During a curated cocktail event at Mr. Paradise in New York City, she spoke to People magazine about her journey to sobriety. She said, "I've been sober for 5 weeks today. I'm doing a pact with my partner and I want to quit." When she was offered a drink, apparently she insisted that she cannot cave because she made a 3-month promise. So she's clearly trying to follow through. It's possible that the couple decided to go alcohol-free together in hopes that they'll eventually be able to stick with sobriety. It might prove to be a little challenging though, but it's good that they have each other for support. These days, Katy and Orlando seem to be happier than ever. They first met back in January of 2016 at the Golden Globes after party. Not long after that, they were seen on several public outings, and then photos were taken of them kissing while they were in Hawaii. But their relationship did get a little bit rocky in 2017 when they decided to split up. 5 months later though, they were seen together again at a concert looking very happy. After that, we didn't hear anything from them until around February of 2018, when they finally confirmed that they were getting back together. Orlando proposed to Katy on Valentine's Day the following year, with a pink stone and diamond engagement ring. Then in March of 2020, they revealed that they were expecting a baby together, and fans were beyond excited. The couple welcomed their daughter Daisy Dove in August that same year, and they became a family of 3. Since becoming parents, Katy and Orlando's relationship seems to be a lot more stable, but like everything else, it's not without its challenges. One of those being the fact that they have very different careers, and those work schedules tend to pull them apart. Orlando said, "We're in 2 very different pools. Her pool is not a pool that I necessarily understand, and I think my pool is not a pool that she necessarily understands. Sometimes things are really challenging, I won't lie." He explained that they battle with their emotions and creativity, but they have a unique connection and there's definitely never a dull moment in their relationship. For her part, Katy has also described their love life as challenging. She spoke to Vogue in 2020 and said, "It's exhausting, but we really hold each other accountable. I've never had a partner who was willing to go on an emotional and spiritual journey like Orlando. It's challenging because you're facing all of the things you don't like about yourself. It's a never-ending cleanse. He's an anchor who holds me down and he's very real. He's not the #1 fan of Katy Perry, but he's the #1 fan of Katherine Hudson." This is true of course because Orlando has admitted several times that he is her biggest fan. He also praised her work on American Idol and said what she does for young musicians is so empowering. Now, he was obviously speaking from the heart here, but you might find that a lot of people disagree with that statement. If anything, Katy's time on the show has proven to be pretty controversial. She's consistently gotten herself into hot water with her bizarre antics, and it's only gotten worse over time. Back in 2018, a 19-year-old contestant named Benjamin Glaze came on the show. He explained that he's never kissed a girl before because he hasn't been in a relationship. He was very firm in his belief that he didn't want to do one without the other. Benjamin made it clear that he wanted his first kiss to be special. When Katy Perry heard about this, she stood up and said, "Come here right now." She asked him for a kiss on the cheek, and even though he was hesitant, Benjamin walked over to her and did as she asked. But when he went to kiss her, Katy swung her face towards him and kissed him on the lips. He was visibly shocked and stumbled backwards. After the episode aired, he ended up speaking out about what happened. He claimed that he never consented to the kiss and said he would have refused if she asked his permission. Now, you might not think that this was a big deal, but it was still non-consensual. Fans were understandably upset about the incident and compared the idea of a male judge doing it to a female contestant. With the roles reversed like that, there would have been a lot more outrage. Fast forward to 2023, and Katy came under fire yet again for making fun of another contestant. Sarah Beth came onto the show for her audition, and right from the start she was being condescending towards towards her. When Sarah revealed that she was 25 years old with 3 kids, Katy started to openly mock her. She pretended that she was going to faint and made a joke saying that Sarah had been laying on her back too much. Unfortunately, the rudeness continued well into her actual audition. She was interrupted several times when she started singing, and Katy told her that it was not enough and instructed her to pick a different song. As expected, this episode did not go down too well with viewers, and the singer was eventually labeled a massive bully. She's been repeatedly called out on social media, and fans believe that she seriously needs to change her behavior. But for now, Katy has not made any attempt to address the controversy. Moving on, it looks like the controversy surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle might just be too much for the King's coronation. A recent poll of the British public came through with some unsurprising results. Out of the 2,000 people surveyed, most would prefer if they were not at the coronation. The survey also found 1 in 5 Britons said they were less likely to watch the event if the royal couple ended up attending. Royal biographers believe that these results spell disaster for Meghan and Harry. The public reaction to them is still looking unfavorable. In fact, it's even been suggested that they will be booed by the crowd if they do show up. TV analyst Jeff Ritchie said, with less than 2 months until the King's coronation, speculation about the Sussexes' appearance has so far overshadowed all other build-up. This latest research shows that even some dedicated royal watchers will be reaching for the remote if the Duke and Duchess appear on their screens. Despite the fact that they are invited, apparently Meghan and Harry are yet to RSVP, so at this point it's still possible that they might decide to reject their invitations. After the release of Spare, the couple have seemingly lost all contact with the rest of the royal family. At the moment, they are said to be negotiating terms before the event. Sources close to the palace have said that they have set out a series of demands. These reportedly include specific security arrangements and celebrating their son's 4th birthday, which falls on the exact same day. But according to a report from the Mirror, Harry and Meghan have another condition. They will only attend the coronation if the vibes aren't toxic. A source close to the couple said, Harry has been very clear and his position hasn't wavered. He isn't going to come if he feels the atmosphere will be as toxic as it was during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. He said he wants to reconcile with his family and it's their call, but so far nothing has changed. So it looks like he's still not on speaking terms with the rest of his family. Possible that things will change as the event draws nearer, but that means that they'll have less than 2 months to patch things up. Otherwise, it's going to be incredibly uncomfortable for everyone involved if Harry and Meghan show up to the coronation and they get the cold shoulder from the rest of the family. Not only that, but the public's opinion of them is still very divided. Even fellow celebrities can't seem to agree on how they feel about the couple. Earlier this month, the star of Succession, Brian Cox, made headlines when he called BS on Meghan Markle's story. He said she knew what she was getting into when she married Prince Harry. He believes that she had ambitions of joining the royal family and childhood dreams of marrying Prince Charming. Quote, you can't go into a system where somebody's already been trained to behave in a certain kind of way and then just expect them to cut themselves off. I mean, she knew what she was getting into. Of course, Brian's comments earned him quite a bit of backlash, and he had to clarify that they were taken way out of context. He said, I actually have enormous sympathy for them. They're the product of an institution which is moribund and shouldn't exist anymore. But that's a difficult situation where Meghan comes from, and it's understandable that she sees something appealing and it does look like a fairy tale, but it was a fairy tale that went horribly wrong. The actor went on to say that Harry and Meghan are victims of their situation. He believes they were genuine in claiming that royal life took a toll on them. He said, I don't know what went on, but something clearly traumatic went on for the pair of them. I don't think they made it up. I don't think it's false. I think it's true and should have been rectified, and it hasn't. Brian is also a famous anti-monarchist and believes that in this day and age, the royal family simply should not exist. Now, this argument has been around for a very long time, and Brian is certainly not the only person who believes it. In response to these kind of sentiments, the institution has gone to great lengths to ensure the royal family remains relevant and popular. But there is something decidedly more modern about King Charles. He's always been very outspoken about issues close to his heart, even if they weren't very popular at the time. For instance, he's been a strong climate change activist and has been speaking out about it since the 60s. He's backed the 2015 Paris Climate Accord and discussed the issue with Donald Trump during his visit in 2019. I mean, even his coronation is set to be as modern as tradition allows. Buckingham Palace said the ceremony will reflect the king's role today as well as the future of the monarchy. Charles and Camilla will be crowned in the Abbey in a service conducted by the Archbishop of Canterbury. He will still pledge to be the defender of the faith, but there will also be other words included in the oath that show the king serves all religions. This will be done to reflect the diversity of modern Britain. The event will have around 2,000 guests, including heads of state from all around the world. Of course, the whole thing will be televised, and most likely millions of viewers will be tuning in to watch. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to be one of those people. And now, why is everyone talking talking about Blac Chyna? Well, it's because she's gone through a dramatic transformation after having a spiritual awakening. She seems to have reversed every single cosmetic procedure that she's ever had done on her body. She removed all her facial filler, as well as went through a breast and butt reduction procedure. She's also changed her name to Angela White. The 34-year-old used to be known for her exaggerated look, but now she's made some really big changes. She spoke to Access Hollywood and opened up about the many procedures that she's had done over the years and her journey in getting them reversed. She said, "This is my 5th boob job. I've had liposuction 3 times. I've had fillers. I've had butt augmentation." She explained that she had to go under an 8-hour operation in order to get rid of a 2-liter Coke bottle worth of silicone in her bum. That removal alone resulted in her losing 10 pounds. Chyna explained that she was most worried about that particular procedure because she got the work done when she was only 19 years old and it wasn't performed by a licensed doctor. Quote, "This is a regular person that's doing it, so they're getting whatever substance they're doing and giving it to you. They're not telling you, hey, you could possibly die. My rear end would get super inflamed and it would get very hard and very hot. It was very scary." When speaking about her transformation, she said she got tired of having the surgery look because she feels like it's no longer flattering and it totally changed her face. Quote, "I don't know why I even did all the fillers. Well, I did it because everyone else was doing it. Let this be a lesson. I did it when I was so young and I didn't even give my body time to fully develop." Fans loved her honesty and commended her for publicly acknowledging that yes, she might have made a mistake. But what really brought on this massive change? Well, Chyna says that she's actually become a born-again Christian, and apart from reversing most of the plastic surgeries, she's also taking steps to remove some of the tattoos she has on her body. She explains that she got a tattoo of a demon whose goal is to create and spread chaos, so by getting rid of it, she's removing all the negative energy that is holding her back. She also decided to stop posting on her OnlyFans, even though it was making her around $240 million per year. She joined the site in 2020 and was crowned the highest earning celebrity that year, but she stopped for a very good reason. She wanted to set a good example for her kids. 10-year-old King Cairo, who she shares with her ex Tiger, and 6-year-old Dream, who she shares with her ex Rob Kardashian. So it's cool to see that her transformation is a lot more than just the physical stuff. How's it going, Io? In this video, we're going to talk about how Kylie Jenner has angered fans, why America has turned on Prince Harry and Meghan, and the fact that AI Seinfeld is now self-aware. First up, Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott are facing backlash after they decided to celebrate their son's first birthday with an Astroworld themed party. It started when Kylie shared images from the special day on Instagram, which featured elaborate decorations all catered to that theme, and it was not exactly subtle. Alongside a ball pit was an array of toys, and the party's entrance was a giant inflatable model of her son Air's face in the style of the Astroworld Festival entrance. The design also included an inflatable head with a gaping mouth, modeled after Stormy, which looked very similar to the cover of Travis's album. The giant head had rainbow-colored slides coming out of its mouth, while another design featured a walkway through its mouth for guests to enter. As soon as these party photos were released, people began accusing Kylie and Travis of being insensitive to the victims of the Astroworld tragedy. One person tweeted, "Travis Scott's kinda weird for throwing his kid an Astroworld themed birthday party after people got trampled to death 2 years ago." Someone else tweeted, "Of course, Kylie Jenner picked the most tasteless theme for her young daughter Stormy's birthday party. Nod to Astroworld, where many people lost their lives. These people are soulless. Do you actually think they care about what they did? Clearly only for PR." To give you some background, in 2021, Travis came under fire after 10 people tragically lost their lives during the Astroworld Music Festival. There was a crowd surge and Travis continued his performance while people were literally dying. He has since said that he was unaware of what was happening and then apologized to the victims' families. In fact, the rapper has recently settled one of his Astroworld lawsuits. A lawyer for the family of 21-year-old victim Axel Acosta said that they have now reached an agreement with the rapper in a lawsuit. His death was truly horrific. The case claimed that Axel was crushed by the incited, unruly, and out-of-control crowd, and he lay dying while the music continued for almost 40 minutes. Multiple lawsuits have been filed on behalf of those injured or killed. Travis has offered to pay the funeral cost of the victims, but 5 of the families rejected the offer, calling it demeaning and inappropriate. Following the tragedy, Travis stated in an Instagram video that he was not aware how bad the situation had become during his set. He said, "Anytime I could make out anything that was going on, I just stopped the show and helped them get the help that they need. I could just never imagine the severity of the situation." As for Kylie and Travis's relationship, apparently they've called it quits again. According to Us Weekly insiders, they were supposed to spend the holidays together, but she went to Aspen to be with her family and her friends up there. Quote, "This has happened so many times before. They're known to be on and off again, but always remain friends and great co-parents. It's true that this is not even the first time they've split up, and while we don't know the reason for their breakup this time around, Travis was exposed for cheating on Kylie in the past, which is something that he still adamantly denies. Back in October, the rapper was battling cheating allegations when a model by the name of Regine Carr exposed him on her Instagram story. She shared video proof of herself on the same set as him and claimed that they were together for a long time. In a video, Regine said, "What we're not gonna do is we're not gonna lie. I pretended I didn't know you, went along with whatever effing narrative, no matter how much BS I got from it. But to say you don't know me and you've never been with me, when you've definitely been with me, when everyone's seen you with me, when I have pictures and videos of you with me, come on." She essentially said that she and Travis have been in a long-term relationship for years, and that she's been pressured to keep quiet about it all this time. She said, "You cheat on that B word every single effing night. The whole effing city sees it." In response, Travis took to his own social media and posted a statement saying, "An uninvited person was sneaking photos on what was supposed to be a closed set while I was directing a video. I don't know this person, I've never been with this person, so please stop with the continuous cyber games and the fictional storytelling." But from that point on, the damage was already done, and most people seem to believe Regine's version of events. Although Kylie and Travis might have split up for good this time, seems like they do have a bit of damage control to do after the Astroworld theme party. Next up, it looks like America has finally turned on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The royals were reportedly snubbed from Oprah Winfrey's 69th birthday party. It seemed to have every single Hollywood A-lister in attendance. The couple's absence from the event has been raising eyebrows, considering that they were said to be on good terms with Oprah. It's possible that Harry and Meghan had prior engagements and they were simply not able to make the party, or they were purposely avoiding the event ahead of King Charles's coronation. Now, several royal commentators have come through with their own opinion on the matter. They believe that the couple have only themselves to blame for not getting an invite. The Spectator's Cara Kennedy thinks that they might have fallen out of favor in Hollywood after the release of Harry's bombshell memoir Spare. She wrote, "It's easy to see why Oprah wouldn't want the pair at her birthday shindig after Harry's latest revelations." She referred to one of Harry's promo interviews for Spare, where he denied that he ever called his family racist, despite the fact that he told Oprah a whole different story. In his 2021 interview, Harry specifically said that a member of the royal family had questioned his son's skin tone, and he suggested that this question had racial undertones. And recently, during his interview with Tom Bradby, he was asked, "In the Oprah interview, you accused members of your family of racism," but in response he said, "No, I didn't. The British press said that." He then claimed that there was concern about his son's skin color, to which Tom asked, "Would that not be described as essentially racist?" In response, Harry claimed that it was only unconscious bias and not actually racism. Cara Kennedy argued that the fact that he changed his whole story made Oprah look stupid. She said, "The interview with Oprah was not an attempt to speak truth, nor was it an attempt at reconciliation. This was Harry and Meghan's campaign to finish off the British monarchy, and they used her as a pawn." But whatever the case may be, that was not the only time that the couple were caught changing their story. 5 years ago, the Sussexes told the world that they met via a friend who set them up on a blind date. They revealed this in an interview with the BBC, which was organized for the announcement of their engagement. Harry said, "When we first met, we were introduced actually by a mutual friend," before he was interrupted by Meghan, who said, "We should protect her privacy." But in the documentary, the couple tell Netflix that that interview was completely rehearsed and more like an orchestrated reality show. They're now saying that they actually met on Instagram when Harry spotted Meghan in a mutual friend's feed. They did a complete 180 on that story. It does sound more realistic now, but it's weird that they casually admitted to lying about how they met. Quote, "Meghan and I met over Instagram. I was scrolling through my feed and someone who was a friend had a video of them. It was like a Snapchat. It was dog ears." Not only that, but they previously claimed that Harry proposed during a normal night where the two of them were roasting chicken. And they've now said that that proposal took place during an evening picnic in the garden. All things considered, it's a little strange that they managed to come up with two different stories and admitted that the interviews they've given before were totally fake. Apart from those inconsistencies, Meghan also came under fire for claiming that she's had no royal lessons whatsoever before marrying into the family. During the documentary, she brought up the 2001 film The Princess Diaries while she was talking about learning royal protocol in the early stages of her relationship with Harry. And according to the Duchess, she did not get the same training that Mia received from her grandmother, the Queen of Genovia. She said, "There's no class where some person goes sit like this, cross your legs like this, use this fork, don't do this, curtsy then, wear this kind of hat. It doesn't happen. So I needed to learn a lot, including the national anthem. It was baptism by fire." Rather than consulting one of Harry's family members, Meghan insisted that she simply Googled the national anthem and practiced waving etiquette all on her own. Basically, she complained that she was left floundering with no instruction and struggling with what to where and was forced to learn a lot on her own. Harry said that the lack of support was just ridiculous, but royal sources have since come out claiming that this was a total lie, and that Meghan actually met with two experts, the late Queen's private secretary Lord Gate, as well as a well-connected person for wardrobe advice. But regardless of whether or not she really had any help, clearly there would have been a lot of royal etiquette to learn on her own. So that couldn't have been easy for her no matter which way you look at it. And lastly, something slightly disturbing is going on with AI. An AI-generated episode of Seinfeld has been broadcast on an infinite stream on Twitch since mid-December, and suddenly it's drawn a lot of attention this week thanks to one article from Vice. It's literally a never-ending episode that's been titled Nothing Forever. One of its creators, Skylar Hartle, has told Vice that the show was created as a parody of Seinfeld, and it started as a weird, very off-centered, kind of nonsensical, surreal art project. He said, but then we kind of worked over the years to bring it to this new place. Along with his co-creator Brian Habsburger, Skylar used a combination of machine learning, generative algorithms, and cloud services to build the series, which has been called a continuously evolving exploration into procedurally generated entertainment. And if you're wondering, yes, there is dialogue, powered by the GPT-3 language model from OpenAI. And so there's very little human involvement in the stream beyond some built-in moderation filters. The episode is literally running by itself. Dialogue, speech, direction, character movement, and music are all generated by AI. The result is a really strange-looking animation of the Seinfeld cast, all talking like robots in pixel art. The whole thing looks like a video game from the early 90s. But while the show bears an obvious resemblance to Seinfeld, it doesn't actually have any charm or comedy. It's awkward, it's bizarre, and it's really uncanny. There are establishing shots of a New York City brownstone facade, laugh track at certain moments, a channel guide that pops up after a few scenes, and then it cuts to a Jerry-inspired character doing a stand-up segment where he literally speaks into a microphone. At one point in the stream this week, Larry's stand-up was pure silence for at least 10 minutes. So yes, there is something very eerie about it. But where is all of this going? Skylar Hartle says that as generative AI gets better, the implications of this kind of thing are clear. He said, we have this notion that at any point you're going to be able to turn on the future equivalent of Netflix and watch a show perpetually, non-stop as much as you want. You don't just have 7 seasons of a show, you have 700 or infinite seasons of a show that has fresh content whenever you want it. He went on to say that the idea became one of their groundbreaking pillars for creating this new Seinfeld. Essentially, they wanted to create a show that can generate entertaining content forever, because that's where the future of AI is going. In fact, their next goal is going to be to create a show that has Netflix level quality. Not only that, but unlike most TV shows, the one created by AI can immediately change its narrative based on people's feedback through the Twitch stream chat, which is actually insane. But you might be thinking, no one is actually watching this stuff, right? Everything in the show is stiff and artificial. The voice acting is rough around the edges, timing of the laugh track is completely off, and the punchlines don't really make any sense, obviously because they've been generated by a computer. But the crazy thing is that thousands of people are actually watching the stream, so there's obviously something that people like about it. If anything, the idea that technology can endlessly generate 90s style sitcoms is amazing on its own. That being said, this new way to use AI feels like a slippery slope that has the potential to uproot even more jobs. Last year, the art world was fuming when a contestant took home the blue ribbon in the Colorado State Fair's annual art competition. But unlike everyone else's work, his art was created by AI. This brought about mass outrage from artists who accused him of cheating. They claimed that his work should not even be put in the same category as art that's made by humans. The fact that anyone can make AI-generated artwork by simply entering in the right prompt actually creates a huge job insecurity. As it stands, many people are now genuinely concerned that it may replace real people altogether, and those fears are not exaggerated. Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about Liam Hemsworth suing Miley Cyrus for defamation, Prince Harry live streaming his trauma therapy, and Brad Pitt's new girlfriend. This news is really crazy. It's been reported that Liam Hemsworth might just be suing his ex-wife Miley Cyrus. The actor is said to be taking legal action after her new single Flowers almost cost him his role in the upcoming Witcher series. Ace Showbiz first reported that the 33-year-old actor filed a complaint for defamation of character because he's straight up unhappy with the way that he was portrayed in the new hit song. But so far this is only speculation and nothing has been confirmed. In fact, the news seems to have come from a Miley Cyrus fan account on Twitter. The tweet was originally posted by Cyrus on Stats, and it said, according to leaked documents, Liam Hemsworth is officially suing Miley Cyrus for defaming him after the success of the single Flowers. He was about to lose his contract with Netflix for the series The Witcher. The tweet went viral instantly, and news of the alleged lawsuit sparked an online debate among fans. Some people argued that since she didn't mention him by name, there there was no grounds for defamation. And in response, one user wrote, Amber Heard didn't name drop Johnny Depp in the op-ed that she was sued for, and yet another person called Liam a snowflake and said he forgot that she dated like 3 people after him, and she never said a bad thing about him. She just talked about loving herself, which is true, but you also can't deny that Flowers was heavily based on Miley's relationship with Liam. One of the biggest clues is the release date. The new single dropped on January the 13th, which is also Liam's birthday. You might be able to brush this off as a coincidence, but not if you also look at the lyrics. Although Bruno Mars isn't credited, many people believe that his 2012 hit track When I Was Your Man was actually sampled and reworked to fit into Flowers. Bruno's song is all about a man who feels regret and admits that he should have treated his ex-girlfriend better when they were together. He sings, I should have bought you flowers and held your hand, should have given you all my hours when I had the chance. While in Miley's song she changes up the lyrics and sings, I can buy myself flowers and I can hold my own hand, talk to myself for hours, say things you don't understand. Fans actually think that Liam once dedicated the song to her, and that's why she wanted to work some of the lyrics into her own version. Miley basically reinvented the song to be about self-love and finding joy and empowerment after a breakup. She also mentions specific events in their relationship, like when she sings, we were right till we weren't, built a home and watched it burn. In this line she's talking about the Malibu home that she shared with Liam, which burned down during the 2018 California wildfires. In fact, it was after this tragic incident that the couple decided to get married, because it brought them closer together. The singer went on Jimmy Fallon that same year and she said, Liam was an amazing hero. He got all the horses, the pigs, 7 dogs and 4 cats. His truck was filled. It was really sexy to me. Then in a separate interview she said, when you experience what we experienced together with someone, it's like glue. You're the only 2 people in the world who can understand. I would say that losing the house changed us much more than getting married changed us. So when you take everything into consideration, like all the references she's included in the song, it's almost impossible to say that it's not about Liam Hemsworth. But what's really hilarious about this latest news is that some people have used it as an opportunity to double down on the fact that they don't want to see him as The Witcher. There have already been countless fan edits and deepfake videos made of him replacing Henry Cavill, and the consensus is that it looks like a joke. There's no doubt that Liam is an incredible actor, but for most people, the last time they remember seeing him on the big screen was The Hunger Games, and he's got some really big shoes to fill if he's going to replace the Geralt that we all know and love. There's really no telling how he's going to portray the character, so for now we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Next up, would you watch Prince Harry unpack his trauma in a live stream? He clearly has a lot more that he wants to get off his chest, so what he's going to do is sit down with a trauma therapist and talk it out. Harry will be having an intimate conversation with Dr. Gabor Mate, and that's something that you can actually be a part of for $33.99. People who purchase tickets will get to ask questions in real time, and those tickets come with a copy of his memoir Spare. Dr. Mate has said that the stream will deep dive into the importance of personal healing and touch on the impact of emotional loss. He hopes that the session with Harry can spark an open discussion about mental health. Mate's background is in dealing with childhood development, trauma, and its potential lifelong impacts on your physical and mental health. When speaking about the live stream session, he said, such a public conversation, I hope, will help encourage more openness around mental health and contribute to remove the stigma around what we call mental illness. I think a discussion of loss, trauma, and healing is of interest to people at all levels of society. Already people on Twitter are reacting to the event, which seems to have everyone divided. Charlie Kirk wrote, Prince Harry will sit down with a trauma expert live on pay-per-view to work through his emotional issues. Harry, who has often complained about unwanted media attention, will charge audiences $33.99 for the live experience. Ada Lodge tweeted, Prince Harry is going to do a live streamed conversation with a trauma expert to help him overcome the extremely difficult life he's had as a literal prince living in Buckingham Palace. Give me a break. But it could just be that Harry wants a chance to reflect on the revelations in his memoir. In Spare, he admitted that he struggled with agoraphobia, which is an anxiety disorder that causes intense fear in certain situations, like when you're in a large crowd. This fear can get so bad that people who suffer from it avoid leaving home altogether. Harry said, I was an agoraphobe, which was nearly impossible given my public role. My official life consisted of going out in public, engaging in discussions, debates, and giving interviews, and suddenly I found myself almost incapable of doing these basic functions. He also recalled that he nearly fainted during one speech that couldn't be avoided or cancelled. In his 20s, he developed severe anxiety and had panic attacks, so he decided to self-medicate with alcohol and illicit substances. In one chapter of the book, he recalled a conversation with his father from the early 2010s, when he finally opened up to him about what he's been dealing with. In response, Charles simply lowered his head and said, I suppose it's my fault. I should have gotten you the help you needed years ago. It turns out that a lot of his anxiety came from unresolved anger over his mother's death. Harry said, "I was so angry with what happened to her and the fact that there was no justice at all. Nothing came from that. The same people that chased her into the tunnel photographed her dying on the back seat of that car." One day his therapist pointed out that he often reverted to a 12-year-old version of himself because he never actually processed Diana's death. In another part of the book, Harry revealed that he drove through that same Paris tunnel where his mother died in 1997 and purposely asked the driver to drive at the exact same speed that she was going when her car crashed. Apparently he and William believed that for many years she might have faked her death and would one day return into their lives. Another massive contributor to his mental health issues was a PTSD that he suffered as a result of his time in the military. In what was perhaps the most controversial part of the book, Harry revealed that he had 25 people while he served as an Apache helicopter co-pilot in Afghanistan. He wrote that he felt neither satisfaction nor shame for his actions, and in the heat of battle he thought of the enemy soldiers as pieces being removed from a chessboard. He also said that most soldiers don't know exactly how many people they have killed, because under battle conditions you often fire indiscriminately. At some point after returning home in 2013, he started developing panic and anxiety attacks, and eventually he realized that he could be suffering from PTSD. So Harry's clearly had his own battle with mental health over the years, and that's something that he wants to continue sharing with the world. Next up, it looks like Brad Pitt has well and truly moved on from Angelina. The actor is currently in a relationship with Ines de Ramon, the 30-year-old Swiss jewelry professional and ex-wife of Paul Wesley from The Vampire Diaries. Brad reportedly feels that their relationship could be long-term. A source spoke to Us Weekly and said he's definitely into her, and although things are still relatively new, he absolutely sees long-term potential in their relationship. Brad and Ines spend as much of their free time together as possible despite their busy schedules. The insider went on to explain that he really enjoys spending time with her because she has such a positive outlook on life. He also appreciates that she's super laid back and has a positive mindset, and it really does seem like it's getting serious between the two of them. A few weeks ago, it was reported that they were having a really wonderful time with each other, and Ines had become a big hit amongst Brad's close circle of friends, despite the fact that they have a massive age gap of 30 years. Even though they only started dating in November, he's already introduced her to his 6 children, and the two of them have been supporting each other after their respective divorces. Ines's ex-husband Paul Wesley officially filed for divorce on February the 17th, about 5 months after their separation was confirmed. The actor is representing himself in the divorce and stated in the filing that their 4-year marriage ended due to irreconcilable differences. The former couple don't have any children, so their divorce is probably going to run a whole lot smoother than Brad and Angelina's, which still hasn't been fully resolved. Their separation has been extremely messy since it was announced in 2016. The couple have 6 children together, with the oldest being 21 and the youngest being just 14. For several years, there was a vicious custody battle over their kids, and it left the family in ruins. The legal drama reached an all-time high in 2021, when Angelina filed court documents claiming that she was a victim of domestic violence. In 2016, news broke that a physical altercation on a flight was actually the reason behind the couple's divorce. Allegedly, Brad was drinking heavily and hurt their oldest son Maddox. He was subsequently investigated by the Department of Children and Family Services, and he was cleared. He did a surprise interview with GQ and said, "I really was on my back and chained to a system when Child Services was called. And you know, after that, we've been able to work together and sort this out. I heard one lawyer say, no one wins in court, it's just a matter of who gets hurt worse." And it seems to be true. You spend a year just focused on building a case to prove your point, and why you're right and why they're wrong, and it's just an investment in vitriolic hatred. He went on to say that he refuses to do this, because it's very jarring for the kids to suddenly have their family ripped apart. But despite the fact that he won shared custody, it was reported that he'd become estranged with most of his children, especially Maddox, who is no longer on speaking terms with his father. Although the good thing is, Brad is receiving plenty of support from his new girlfriend. A source close to the actor said, "Brad's relationship with Angie was such a high-profile disaster, and it's quite the opposite with Ines. She is zero drama and very low-key. As for what Angelina might have to say about Brad's new romance, the source insists that he simply doesn't care. In fact, he wants her to know that he is happy with someone else." In November, the new couple were spotted for the first time hugging each other outside of a Bono concert in LA. Since then, they've been together on many occasions, like the premiere party for Brad's latest film Babylon. Ines was also at his 59th birthday party in December. Later that month, they celebrated New Year's Eve together with a romantic getaway to Cabo, although they did spend Valentine's Day apart because Brad is currently filming his new movie in New York City. But he did make sure to send her a huge bouquet of pink flowers along with a baguette. Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about Prince Harry coming after William in a phone hacking lawsuit. Olivia Wilde hitting back at tasteless comments made by Emily Ratajkowski, and the real reason Don Lemon was fired from CNN. Okay, so there's been a shocking new development in Prince Harry's lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers. He is suing the company for multiple unlawful acts committed from the mid-90s up until about 2016. In court documents, he's now alleged that his brother, Prince William, received a large sum of money from News Group in 2020 as a part of a settlement in his own phone hacking lawsuit. In his witness statement, he wrote, "My brother appeared to know an awful lot more than I did on the subject of phone hacking, although he did not tell me if that was the case. However, News Group still settled his claim for a huge sum of money in 2020 without subjecting him to a similar strikeout application, without any of the public being told, and seemingly with some favorable deal in return for him going quietly, so to speak." At this point, you might be wondering, why is Harry even bringing up William at all? Some people felt like he was just trying to undermine him again, and the rest of the royal family, at a time when they're trying to do a bit of damage control before the king's coronation. But according to sources close to the prince, that wasn't his intention at all. From his perspective, the News Group might try to say that his claim should have been brought years ago, so he decided to bring up William's recent deal purely as a defensive measure. He didn't want his claim to get shut down on the grounds that too many years have passed since the phone hacking took place. So why didn't he go through this lawsuit sooner? Well, he says that Charles seemingly blocked any legal action that he wanted to take. He said it was all a part of a bigger plan to fix their image. Harry wrote, "They had a specific long-term strategy to keep the media on side in order to smooth the way for my stepmother and to be accepted by the British public. When the time came, and anything that might upset the apple cart in this regard was to be avoided at all costs." Harry also called the executives at News Group criminals masquerading as journalists, and said that the tabloids are brainwashing the British public. Elsewhere in his statement, he wrote, "People die as a result of trolling, and people will continue to take their own lives when they can't see any other way out. How much more blood will stain their typing fingers before someone can put a stop to this madness?" In a shocking twist, Harry also turned his ire towards Piers Morgan. He's now accused the TV presenter of illegally targeting his mother, Princess Diana, back when he worked as an editor of News of the World in the mid-90s. In court documents, he claims that Piers knew about, encouraged, and concealed this kind of illegal activity. He says that his mother's private text messages and phone calls were all obtained by journalists who were working for Rupert Murdoch's newspapers, and he said that that information was then used for multiple stories in The Sun and News of the World. Harry listed a number of articles that were published during Piers Morgan's time as an editor. This was between January of 1994 and August of 1995. He says that these articles are the result of illegal information gathering. For his part, Piers has always denied any direct knowledge of phone hacking during his time as an editor. 30 years later, he now hosts a nightly show on Murdoch's Talk TV channel, and he's become infamous for his hatred of Meghan Markle. In fact, that's the reason he quit Good Morning Britain in 2021, because he came under fire for making horrible comments about her. So it's really interesting that Piers has now been named in this new phone hacking lawsuit. It almost seems like a revenge move. Okay, now I'm gonna bring you guys up to speed about what's going on between Olivia Wilde and Emily Ratajkowski, because it's getting really messy. A few weeks ago, Emily was spotted on the streets of Tokyo making out with Olivia's ex Harry Styles. The two of them were seen leaning against a silver van and kissing in plain sight. As expected, that video went viral and it sent Harry's dedicated fan base into a spiral. Shortly after the news went public, it was reported that Harry was seeing someone and things seemed to be going well. The report did not mention Emily by name, but it was assumed to be about her. Neither of them spoke about the kiss until now. A few days ago, Emily did an interview with Vogue Spain, where she addressed the whole video. She was mainly defending herself against Harry's massive fan base and asserting her need for privacy, but in doing so, she made a tasteless comment about Olivia. She said, "I feel bad for Olivia because she has to suffer this situation on several occasions." Yes, she really said that. While she probably had good intentions, that comment came off as a little condescending. An inside source close to the actress then spoke to Daily Mail. They said, "Emily shouldn't feel bad for Olivia. She should re-examine her dating life and the men she chooses to go out with. She should really just focus on being a mom. Olivia just wants Emily to keep her name out of her mouth." The source went on to claim that this situation was some kind of betrayal, seeing that the two women used to be friends, or at least they were friendly with each other. They once partied together at one of Harry's concerts, and just weeks before the viral video, they were spotted hanging out at the Vanity Fair Oscars after party. Now, they might not have been the best friends, but they were still close enough with each other that Emily was thought to be breaking girl code. Now, their relationship has apparently gone down the drain because it's been said that the two women are not on speaking terms at all. Later on in her Vogue interview, Emily denied the rumor that they had any type of confrontation, and she said that the video was just an unfortunate issue. What's really interesting is that she compared this situation with Harry Styles to Adam Levine's cheating scandal last year, where he was caught having an affair with a young Instagram model named Summer Stroh. Emily was one of her biggest defenders at the time and claimed that the backlash against her was just misogyny, seeing that Adam was actually the one who was married. But it was this part of the interview that had fans divided more than anything else. One person tweeted, "I think Emrata is wrong about how women shouldn't be blamed for men's mistakes, but only in the one context of her kiss with Harry, because they both consented to that kiss, so it isn't just his mistake. But in any other context, she's completely correct." Despite the fact that they were seen kissing in a public street, Emily said that she was surprised the pictures of her and Harry went viral. Quote, "It's very bizarre to have certain experiences and then have the whole world know about them and comment on them. I'm just a person who's gone from a 3-year relationship to a 4-year relationship, so this is the first time in a long time I've been in the dating stage." She insisted that most of her life is actually focused on her son and her work, but she does understand that those things don't inspire the same flashy headlines. The 31-year-old actress has been romantically linked to multiple A-listers recently, like Pete Davidson and Eric Andre, but despite the fact that she's been dating some very high-profile people, she never really considered the fact that she would have to give up so much of her privacy just for another shot at love. Emily also spoke at length about dating as a single mom. She said it's very difficult because a lot of guys will just try and slip into that father role without actually realizing what a big decision it is. The idea is that a lot of men don't actually consider the responsibilities of being a step-parent before they decide to start dating someone with kids. Some people think that she was kind of talking about Harry and Olivia's relationship when she said that, but she was most likely just talking from experience. And now let's talk about the real reason that Don Lemon got fired. In a shocking turn of events, the longtime CNN anchor was let go from the network on Monday. The CEO released a statement saying, "Don will forever be a part of the CNN family, and we thank him for his contributions over the past 17 years. We wish him well and will be cheering for him on his future endeavors." Now that is a very nice way of saying he got dropped like a hot potato. This news seemed to have surprised everyone, including Lemon himself. He made a post on Twitter saying, "I was informed this morning by my agent that I have been terminated by CNN. I am stunned. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought that someone in management would have the decency to tell me directly. At no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue to do the work I have loved at the network." In response to his tweet, a representative of CNN said that he was offered a chance to meet with management, but instead he decided to release a statement on Twitter. So obviously he knew that he was getting fired anyway and decided to put the company on blast. His termination is shocking, but it's not completely unexpected. For several months now, he's been plagued by accusations of misogyny and misbehavior. In February, he made some unsolicited comments about Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley. In that particular segment, they were discussing the question of how old is too old to run for president, and Lemon criticized Nikki's age. He said that at 51 years old, she isn't in her prime. He said, "When a woman is considered to be in her prime, it's her 20s, 30s, and maybe 40s. I'm just saying what the facts are. Google it." Of course, he was challenged by his female co-host who said, "Are you talking about prime for childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?" But he never clarified his comments. Instead, he just tried to change the subject. As you can probably imagine, his comments sparked widespread outrage online. No one was okay with the casual sexism that was implied with his statements. After all, how could you criticize a presidential contender for being 50 years old when the current president was voted in at the age of 78? Talk about double standard. Even Michelle Yeoh spoke out against Lemon in her Oscars acceptance speech, where she said, "Ladies, don't let anyone tell you you're ever past your prime." After that, Lemon tried to do a bit of damage control by putting out an apology statement and saying that he regretted his inartful and irrelevant comments. He also apologized to the newsroom and agreed to partake in mandatory training to address the incident. But it's safe to say that he never really won back his female viewers. It was a pretty bad look for a morning news show where the audience is primarily women and the anchors try to depict themselves as one big happy family. In fact, his comments ended up costing CNN a bunch of advertising sales, and producers actually struggled to find guests for the show. Add that to the fact that the ratings were going down, and you can see why the network was getting sick of him. 2 months later, things got even worse for Lemon when Variety released a bombshell report that called his entire reputation into question. It showed a long history of misogynistic behavior towards his female colleagues. The report was based on more than a dozen former and current employees at the network, who described him as openly hostile towards women. In one instance, he allegedly called a producer fat to her face, mocked and mimicked the voice of another colleague and sent threatening texts to someone else. Of course, Lemon denied the accusations. In a statement to NBC News, he said, "It's amazing and disappointing that Variety would be so reckless. The story, which is riddled with patently false anecdotes and no concrete evidence, is entirely based on unsourced, unsubstantiated 15-year-old anonymous gossip." But whatever the case, he genuinely had no idea that he was going to be fired. On Monday, he showed up to work like normal, went to the morning show, and was able to host the whole program without any hesitation. It was only later that day when the news broke out. Lemon has since hired an entertainment lawyer to address his contract with CNN, which was signed to last until 2026. He joined the network in 2006 after working for a local NBC station in Chicago. For over 8 years, he hosted the primetime show Don Lemon Tonight, but he then got moved when the network launched CNN This Morning last November. Some people close to him have suggested that the morning job was essentially a demotion. But even if that seems to be the case, the official story is that he left the primetime slot to help get the morning show on its feet. News of his departure has been met with mixed reactions. His former co-hosts Poppy Harlow and Caitlin Collins were clearly sad to see him go. Meanwhile, other people like Donald Trump openly praised the decision to fire him. He posted on Truth Social saying, "Good news, the dumbest man on television, Don Lemon, has finally been fired from fake news CNN. My only question is, what took them so long?" Right now, it's unclear what Lemon is going to do next. He might bring a lawsuit against the network or just cut his losses and try to move on. Either way, it's way too early to tell. Now, did you know that Britney Spears is apparently broke? Matthew Rosengart is said to have started offering his services pro bono after he received more than $4 million from Britney since she retained him in July of 2021. According to sources, she paid him over $4 million between November of 2021 and March of 2023. This was all for the work that he did for her after her conservatorship was terminated. So why is Rosengart now working for her for free? Well, it's said that members of Britney's team became agitated that she was just spending so much money on legal fees, which was said to be around $6 million in total. They pushed back on Rosengart over his fees, and he agreed to work pro bono for the remainder of the case against her father, Jamie Spears. At the moment, Britney is still battling with him in court. Along with various lawyers, he allegedly took out $36 million from her estate, all throughout her nearly 14-year-long conservatorship. She was reportedly worth $60 million when it ended in November of 2021, but it's said that her finances have been dwindling ever since. Yes, she still has a lot of money, but her net worth is actually surprisingly small for a star of her stature. Others who've had a similar career like Jessica Simpson or Jennifer Lopez are sitting on fortunes of more than $100 million. But there's actually several reasons for this. According to the New York Times, as of 2021, her dad was receiving a salary of around $18,000 a month, all to act as her conservator. He was also said to have received a percentage of all the profits from her tours and sponsorships. Britney's legal team have said that Jamie enriched himself by taking more than $6 million from her earnings. He was also accused of using some of the earnings to pitch his own television show. In August of 2021, he made a shocking decision to step down as one of her conservators, which would likely mean that he wouldn't be able to count on any income from her. But of course, it was never that simple. Apparently, he tried to negotiate a large payout for himself before he finally agreed to walk away. Then, the month after her conservatorship ended, Britney put him on blast and exposed just how much he'd been controlling her finances. On Instagram, she wrote, "I'm embarrassed for the state of California for permitting my father to have me work as hard as he worked me all those years and never seeing a dime. I'm embarrassed for all of them, and I'm sad for them because I know my value and my worth now, and they lost me." Aside from her father, Britney also pays quite a bit in child support to her ex-husband Kevin Federline, all for their two sons Sean and Jaden. That number was said to be around $35,000 a month, but it increased in 2018. While we don't know exactly how much money he receives now, it's said to be thousands more than she was initially paying. Add all that to the fact that Britney just doesn't work as much as she used to. She stopped doing television commercials in 2015, hasn't released new music since 2016, and stopped touring in 2018. But that's not to say that she hasn't been staying busy. In January, she actually landed one of the biggest book deals of all time and received a $15 million advance from Simon & Schuster. She made the announcement on Instagram and said, "I'm writing a book at the moment and it's actually healing and therapeutic. It's also quite hard bringing up past events in my life I've never been able to express openly." Now, this news is such a big deal given how much she was censored during her conservatorship. Fans have been dying to hear about everything that really happened to her from her own perspective, because we only know part of the story. Plus, her sister Jamie Lynn Spears recently released her own memoir, and Britney was not too happy with the contents of it, so putting out her very own book would be the best way to hit back. There seems to be a bit of trouble with that though, as the memoir is said to be on pause. was. According to The Sun, the publishing house received some strongly worded legal letters on behalf of 2 A-listers. They were said to be worried about what was written in that book. An inside source said, "There's a fair amount of throwing people under the bus, talking about past relationships, some of whom will be revealed for the first time ever. Britney lived her life in the public eye, but there are relationships and people she had encounters with who she managed to keep under the radar, including some massive film star names and people from the music world." But if anything, the fact that the memoir is already getting a bit of pushback is a good sign. It was originally set to be released in the fall, although at the moment we don't know the official date when it will be released.
Recently, Logan Paul said on a podcast that his brother had become broke after investing all of his money into cryptocurrency, but it looks like he might be taking that back. The discussion on the podcast came around when Logan used air quotes to describe Jake's boxing career, and his co-hosts George and Mike quickly jumped to the younger brother's defense. George said, "It's going pretty well, he's won every fight he's done," and Mike followed up by saying he made like $40 million last year. But as with most sibling duos, Logan was quick to continue to try and put his brother down, responding with, "It doesn't matter, he put it all in crypto, he's poor." Many people have invested in crypto and in NFTs, but in recent months, crypto, and specifically Bitcoin, has taken a massive hit and been on a downward trend, the currency apparently being at the lowest it's been since December of 2020. Jake took to commenting about it in a tweet that he made back on June 11th. He said, "Biden accomplishments. Number 1, highest gas prices. Number 2, worst inflation. Number 3, plummeting crypto prices. Number 4, highest rent prices ever. Number 5, created new incomprehensible language. If you're reading this and voted for Biden and you still don't regret it, then you are the American problem." It seems he had attempted to shift the blame of his situation to the current United States President, Joe Biden. And it seems many people were put off by the content of this tweet, as people replied saying things like, "My man blames Biden for crypto, you know, when he's one of the main dudes pumping and dumping. Are you blaming Biden for crypto, the thing that is advertised as uncontrollable by the government? And finally, if you don't understand how literally anything works, just say that." I personally don't understand how literally anything works either, but I just wing it. Due to Logan Paul's own involvement in cryptocurrency, people took his word for it when he said that Jake Paul had gone for broke, and the internet was set on fire with discussion of the topic. But Logan has finally cleared up the situation a bit. In his impulsive podcast, he was talking about Jake Paul's next fight, and spoke once again about how they were both involved in crypto and NFTs, and he went back to his original statement to clear it up, saying, "Yo, I made a joke on one podcast about Jake being broke. I talked about him and he made like $40 million last year or whatever, which by the way is like facts, and I made a joke that he lost it all because he invested it in crypto and traditional media ran with it. These are like Jake Paul is broke because crypto crashed. Yeah, but Jake didn't invest his money into crypto. I'm sure he invested some, but he's not going to invest his entire portfolio." First of all, Logan, no need to call me names. I'm just here to say what I hear. But yeah, he's right. It's highly unlikely that someone as business motivated as Jake Paul would have put everything he had into cryptocurrency. While some people just see them as 2 kids causing problems on the internet, you can't deny the empire that they have managed to build and maintain. And a lot of business know-how and financial management goes into that, so it's hard to imagine Jake making a mistake like that. Like Logan said, $40 million would be an absolutely insane amount to invest into anything, unless you're like Bill Gates or something. So while both the brothers are involved in cryptocurrency and seem to be doing a good job with keeping up on it, it may be a good idea not to take every word that comes out of their mouths as the complete truth.
In a video obtained by TMZ, last week Amber Heard has been seen shopping at a TJ Maxx in Bridgehampton, New York, Thursday afternoon, where she was accompanied by her sister Whitney Henriquez. When Amber noticed the cameras rolling, she hit the road as fast as possible. I mean, you can shop wherever you want really, but with her current financial situation, the internet has taken this and ran. If you don't know, Amber's lawyers have gone on record to say she cannot afford to pay the $8.3 million in damages awarded to Johnny by the jury in their defamation case. That is assuming Johnny Depp pushes to enforce it, which according to his lawyers he might not. Now with Amber doing press lately and trying to present evidence she says proves her case, it may force his hand, not to mention her repeated threats to appeal. It's a precarious time in Amber's life. She could be forced to pay the money she does not have, but she's also at risk of losing a lot of work going forward and hasn't been called for many roles recently. People are taking the shopping at TJ Maxx as a sign of her rough time. I'm not really a fan of anyone, really, to be honest, but I'm sure she was shopping a bit more lavishly before her current situation. But hey, who really cares this much where the girl is shopping? Not me.